cargo moving people. We do it every day. We move the freight this country needs.
Across the USA.
Like coal and steel and automobiles, you bet we know the way. We're cargo moving people from NW Railway.
Out of all the railroads in the U.S., the Norfolk and Western has to be one of my favorites, having some of the most powerful locomotives, most of which rival even diesel power, and most of which were built in N&W's own shops. And that is why today we will be covering the legends of the Norfolk and Western Railway, some of the best steam locomotives ever built. The N&W 2664 A-Class. Constructed between 1936 and through the 1950s, the A-Class was created to haul heavy freight, primarily long coal drags. One locomotive was powerful enough to pull 13,000 tons on level track. This locomotive was so successful that it would last all the way up into the late 1950s, even challenging some diesels. These trains were also articulated, meaning the front set of driving wheels moved independently from the rear set of driving wheels, allowing them to bend on more tighter curves. The 2664 A-Class would come around due to the fact that they needed a fast freight hauler. The N&W had the Y6A and the Y6B, but both trains were only good for long coal drags, slow-moving trains. The A-Class was a hybrid between these two locomotives, not quite as strong as the Y6As or Bs, but they were fast and efficient. However, Norfolk and Western would sadly give up steam in 1960, and all of the 2664 A-Classes would be scrapped. All but 1218, who was still alive and well, and would go on to run steam excursions through 1987 all the way up through 1991. Today, 1218 still remains preserved, keeping the legend of these great locomotives alive for all to see. The N&W 2882 Y6B/Y6A. I decided to include both locomotives on this list, as both are extremely similar and practically the same locomotive, with the only primary difference between the two locomotives being that the Y6Bs were longer and had larger fireboxes, and had more tractive effort. For an example, the Y6A was rated for 166,000 horsepower, whereas the Y6B was rated for 170,000 horsepower. That puts them at the same level as the Union Pacific's Big Boys, the biggest steam locomotives ever built. Both these locomotives would be primarily used to haul freight and especially long coal drags. But in the year of 1959, all of their locomotives would sadly be retired. That same year, steam locomotive 2174 Y6B would run a farewell to steam excursion, and was almost preserved. Unfortunately, the deadline came and went, and steam locomotive 2174 was sadly cut up. This would sadly cause these locomotives to go extinct, as none of the Y6Bs survive. However, the Y6As were a little bit more lucky, as Y6A 2156 still survives and is in complete preservation, meaning that a part of these legendary locomotives still lives on in railroading history. N&W 484 J-Class. Of course I had to do the famous J-Class locomotives. Built between 1941 and 1950, these elegant streamlined locomotives were the pride of the N&W. These locomotives were rated for 80,000 pounds of tractive effort, and they were the most powerful 484 steam locomotives without a booster. These trains were also able to reach speeds of well over 100 miles an hour. These locomotives were primarily built to haul long passenger trains. They were also given an elegant torpedo-like nose and streamlined design to match with their passenger consist. The J-Class would go on to be known as a very reliable and versatile locomotive, as later on, as passenger service began to dwindle, they would later go on to pull some freight. However, diesels were in and steam was out. and in 1958 through 1959, the J-Class locomotives would be slowly retired and scrapped. Well, all but one. Steam locomotive J-Class 611 is still in complete preservation. This locomotive would go on throughout the years to be retired and then back on the rails, to being retired, to being back on the rails hauling passenger excursion services throughout its career, and would go on to be a famous icon in the railroading community, being one of the most famous steam locomotives in the world. So the famous J-Class locomotive will forever live on in railroading history. And there you have it, the legends of the Norfolk and Western Railway, one of the most successful railroads in American history. Since then, Norfolk and Western has merged with the Southern Railway to create Norfolk Southern. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an update on Brick Trooper. I have many more videos like this planned for the future, and I'll catch you in the next video. Till then, stay on the rails.